When we open the scriptures and dare to ask the question, where was Jesus during Lucifer's rebellion, we immediately step into one of the most mysterious and terrifying events in the history of creation. To understand the answer, we must first examine the rebellion itself. Lucifer was not an ordinary angel. He was not some minor figure in heaven's hierarchy. Instead, he was described as the seal of perfection, full of wisdom and perfect in beauty, Ezekiel 28 verse 12. He was adorned with precious stones, clothed in brilliance, and set apart as a guardian cherub who walked in the very courts of God's throne. Imagine the radiant splendor of this being, powerful, majestic, exalted above countless others. He stood near the throne of the Almighty, reflecting divine glory like a mirror of heaven's light. Yet, in the midst of this exaltation, something dark stirred within him. Isaiah 14 records the chilling ambitions of his heart: I will ascend to the heavens. I will raise my throne above the stars of God. I will make myself like the Most High. Here we see the seed of pride blossom into rebellion. Lucifer no longer wanted to reflect God's glory, he wanted to seize it for himself. The very gifts that God had given him became fuel for his downfall. He mistook privilege for entitlement, and splendor for supremacy. And thus, in the heart of heaven itself, sin was born. It was not a rebellion against a law or a system, it was a direct rebellion against the very character of God, an attempt to dethrone the one who is eternal. This was not a small skirmish, not a fleeting disagreement in heaven's courts. It was the first war of the universe, the moment when the perfection of creation was pierced by the poison of pride. Lucifer, intoxicated by his own magnificence, rallied a host of angels to his side, attempting to overthrow the eternal throne. But even as chaos stirred in heaven's ranks, one thing remained unshaken: the supremacy of Christ. The rebellion may have created noise, but it could not threaten the eternal reign of the Son of God. This cosmic crisis did not catch heaven by surprise, instead, it became the backdrop against which the eternal authority of Jesus would shine even brighter. For the real question is not whether Christ was present during Lucifer's rebellion, he always was, but how his eternal existence defined the very boundaries of that conflict. If Lucifer's rebellion teaches us about the rise of sin, the presence of Christ reveals to us the unshakable foundation of eternity. Too often, people imagine that Jesus only entered the stage of history when he was born in Bethlehem, as if his story began in a manger. But Scripture explodes that misconception with thunderous clarity. John opens his Gospel with a staggering declaration: "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Through him all things were made, without him nothing was made that has been made." John 1 verses 1-3. Before there were angels, before there was light, before Lucifer even existed, Jesus Christ already was. He did not come into being, he always has been. This truth shifts the very foundation of our question. When Lucifer sought to ascend above the throne of God, he was not simply opposing an abstract concept of divinity, he was standing in defiance of Christ himself, the eternal Word who holds creation in his hands. Lucifer's rebellion was not only a challenge to the Father's authority but also a direct confrontation with the Son's sovereignty. Every star in the heavens, every angel in the ranks, every law of order and existence, these were all brought forth through Christ. To rebel against heaven was, in essence, to rebel against him. And so, when we ask, where was Jesus? The answer is breathtaking: he was enthroned in eternal majesty, co-equal with the Father, radiating the very glory that Lucifer longed to steal. The rebellion did not shake his throne, nor did it threaten his reign. If anything, it revealed that his sovereignty is the axis on which all creation turns. The arrogance of Lucifer stands in stark contrast to the eternal constancy of the Son. Pride rises and falls, but the reign of Christ is everlasting. His existence before time itself means he is not a bystander in the drama of rebellion, he is the central figure against whom all rebellion is measured. Colossians 1 verses 16-17 reveals a dimension of Christ's authority that makes Lucifer's rebellion appear not only foolish but utterly doomed from the start, for in him all things were created, things in heaven and on earth, visible and invisible, whether thrones or powers or rulers or authorities, all things have been created through him and for him. He is before all things, and in him all things hold together. Think about that. Lucifer, the shining cherub, was himself a product of Christ's creative power. Every ounce of his beauty, every spark of his wisdom, every note of his musical splendor, these were gifts breathed into him by the eternal Son. To rebel, therefore, was to turn against the very source of his own existence. Here lies the tragic irony: Lucifer's revolt was not an act of independence, but of dependency twisted into defiance. Even in rebellion, he remained sustained by the very Christ he sought to overthrow. The breath with which he declared his arrogance was still borrowed from the one he rejected. Creation itself testifies to Christ's sustaining power. Without him, galaxies collapse, stars extinguish, and atoms fall apart. He is the glue of existence, the heartbeat of the cosmos. How then could Lucifer, or any being, possibly succeed against him? The rebellion therefore underscores the madness of pride. Lucifer sought to hold dominion apart from the very one who holds dominion over all. His insurrection was not merely doomed to fail, it was never truly possible. Christ's authority was not threatened in the slightest, for his power is not contingent on the loyalty of creatures. Whether angels obey or rebel, whether men worship or deny, Christ remains the one in whom all things are held together. The rebellion did not fracture his authority, it magnified it. For every act of defiance becomes another stage upon which the supremacy of Jesus is displayed. The book of Revelation lifts the curtain on the cosmic battle that followed Lucifer's rebellion. Then war broke out in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon and his angels fought back. But he was not strong enough, and they lost their place in heaven. Revelation 12 verses 7-8. This is no metaphorical skirmish, it is the imagery of cosmic warfare, where the forces of loyalty clashed against the armies of pride. At the center of this scene stands a mysterious figure, Michael, the archangel, leading the charge. But here lies the debate that has fascinated theologians for centuries: who exactly is Michael? Some traditions view him as a mighty archangel distinct from Christ. Others see him as a symbolic representation of Christ himself in his warrior role, leading heaven's armies to victory. Regardless of interpretation, one truth resounds: this battle was fought under the authority of the Son of God. Whether through his direct manifestation or through his delegated command, Christ was the supreme commander. Lucifer's rebellion was never an equal contest, for the power of Christ's word alone could cast him down. Revelation 12 concludes with the dragon hurled to the earth, stripped of his heavenly position, defeated not by accident but by the irresistible authority of the Lamb. This vision reveals a profound mystery: Christ does not merely sit upon his throne untouched by the conflict, he is actively engaged in the defense of heaven's order. His role is not passive, it is decisive. The war in heaven is not a tale of uncertain outcome, it is the testimony of Christ's ultimate triumph. Every blow struck, every angelic victory, every demonic defeat resounds with one refrain: the kingdom of the world has become the kingdom of our Lord and of his Christ. Revelation 11 verse 15. In other words, Jesus was not simply present during Lucifer's rebellion. He was the victorious general who ensured its failure. Perhaps the most striking element of this story is not just the rebellion itself but the contrast it highlights between Lucifer and Christ. Lucifer's fall was born of pride: I will ascend, I will raise, I will make myself like the Most High. His ambition was upward, a desperate clawing for a throne that was never his to claim. He sought to exalt himself by tearing down the majesty of God. In stark contrast stands Jesus Christ. Philippians 2 reveals the paradox of his glory: though he was in very nature God, he did not consider equality with God something to be used to his own advantage. Rather, he made himself nothing, taking the very nature of a servant, being made in human likeness. And being found in appearance as a man, he humbled himself by becoming obedient to death, even death on a cross. Do you see the reversal? Lucifer, though a created being, grasped for divinity. Christ, though eternally divine, humbled himself into humanity. Lucifer fell because he would not bow. Christ was exalted because he did bow. The cosmic rebellion showcases two kingdoms, one built on self-exaltation, the other built on self-sacrifice. And in the end, only one will stand. The irony is breathtaking. The very humility that Lucifer despised became the weapon that destroyed his power. By descending lower than angels, by taking on flesh, by dying in shame, Christ disarmed the forces of darkness and triumphed over them by the cross. Colossians 2 verse 15. Lucifer's pride was his downfall, Christ's humility was his eternal coronation. The rebellion therefore serves not only as a warning against pride but as a revelation of the beauty of humility. In the kingdom of Christ, true greatness is not measured by how high you climb, but by how low you are willing to descend for the sake of love. So, where was Jesus during Lucifer's rebellion? He was on the throne, he was in the battle, he was defining the very outcome of history. But the question is not only historical, it is personal. The echoes of that ancient rebellion still reverberate in our world today. Pride, ambition, self-exaltation, these are not relics of Lucifer's heart alone, they are temptations that plague humanity. Every act of selfishness, every thirst for power, every rejection of God's authority is, in essence, a small reenactment of Lucifer's rebellion. And yet, into this chaos steps Jesus Christ, the same yesterday, today, and forever. The lesson for us is profound. We do not fight pride with pride, or rebellion with rebellion. We fight it by clinging to the one who has already won. The victory Christ achieved over Lucifer is not locked in the past, it is extended to us today. Revelation assures us that believers overcome the accuser, by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony, Revelation 12 verse 11. The Lamb who was present in eternity, who crushed rebellion in heaven, and who triumphed at the cross, now offers his victory to us. To follow him is to stand on the winning side of history. To reject him is to align ourselves with the doomed rebellion of the enemy. Thus, the question, where was Jesus during Lucifer's rebellion, becomes more than a curiosity. It becomes a call to decision. He was there, enthroned in glory, commanding the battle, humbling himself for our salvation, and extending his triumph to all who believe. The rebellion of Lucifer reveals the futility of pride, but the reign of Christ reveals the power of humility, obedience, and sacrificial love. And as history moves toward its conclusion, we too must decide, will we echo the arrogance of Lucifer, or will we bow before the eternal King who was, who is, and who is to come?